I sat in my tiny office, actually the entire 50th floor of the Riverside Tower, watching the live security feed from my brother's company lobby. The maintenance crew was quietly updating the building directory, adding owned by Nova Enterprises Hyo Catherine Chin beneath the list of tenants. My brother's firm, Chin Global, occupied 10 floors of the building. They had no idea that their lease renewal next month would be crossing my desk, or that every office they'd ever looked down on my little startup from was actually owned by their unsuccessful sister. My phone buzzed, the family group chat lighting up with their usual corporate bragging. "James, big announcement at Chin Global today. Dad's letting me lead the expansion plans. Mom, so proud. A real business success, unlike some people's internet ventures." I minimized the chat to check Nova Enterprises' latest acquisition reports. While they celebrated taking over another floor in my building, I was finalizing deals on corporate towers across 3 continents. "Miss Chin," my assistant Michael appeared on the video screen. "Your brother's office called again. They're demanding a meeting with Nova's CEO about their expansion plans." I smiled, remembering last week's family dinner. "Still in that cramped startup office, Kat?" James had smirked. "Meanwhile, I'm getting Dad's corner office on the 40th floor. Now that's real success." What he didn't know was that I own not just his building, but half the commercial real estate in the business district. The cramped startup, they mocked, had quietly become one of the largest property investment firms in the city. "Let them schedule the meeting," I told Michael. "But book it for next week. Let's see how they react to the new building directory first." Another message popped up. "Dad, James is carrying on the Chin family legacy, taking Chin Global to new heights. Catherine, you should consider a real corporate position instead of that internet thing." I glanced at the real-time value of Nova Enterprises displayed on my wall of screens. The internet thing they dismissed had just closed a $1 billion deal in Dubai. "Miss Chin," Michael called, "the new signage is being installed now. Your brother is arriving in the lobby." I switched to the security feed, watching James stride through the front doors in his expensive suit, probably rehearsing another lecture about proper business for his little sister. He stopped short at the directory, his confident smile faltering. "There must be some mistake," I heard him tell the security guard. "Nova Enterprises? I've never heard of them. And that's your name." "No mistake, sir," the guard replied, following my long-standing protocol. "Nova Enterprises has owned this building for quite some time. Miss Chin is quite particular about keeping accurate records." My phone buzzed again, a text from Mom. "Darling, so you registered a new web domain. So brave, starting over after your last venture failed. Though if you'd listened about getting a proper corporate job like James." I smiled, typing back, "Thanks, Mom. Actually, I just registered several domains, along with a few buildings. Speaking of which, have you seen the new directory at James's office?" From my executive suite, I watched James frantically Googling Nova Enterprises and Catherine Chin CEO on his phone in the lobby. The carefully curated public information would show him just enough to realize this wasn't a mistake, but not enough to reveal the full scope of my empire. "Miss Chin," Michael appeared with the morning reports, "your brother has called an emergency meeting with Chin Global's board. Apparently, they're concerned about the new ownership." I pulled up the security feed from their conference room on the 40th floor. James was pacing, gesturing at printouts of Nova's public holdings. "This can't be right," he was saying. "My sister runs some tiny tech startup. This has to be a different Catherine Chin." My phone lit up with family messages. "Mom, James says there's some confusion at the office. Something about building ownership." "Dad, must be a coincidence. Our Catherine doesn't have the business acumen for real estate." I minimized the chat to review Chin Global's lease renewal documents. Their generous offer for additional floor space was amusing. They were essentially asking permission from their little sister to expand in her building. "Michael," I called, "what's the status of the other Chin Global properties?" "All acquired as planned, Miss Chin. Your family's company currently rents space in 6 Nova-owned buildings across the city. They've never noticed your logo in the fine print of their leases." Another message appeared. "James, having the legal team look into this Nova company. No way some random CEO named Chin owns our building." I smiled, remembering all the times they'd dismissed my business. "That tiny office will fail," James had laughed at Thanksgiving. Real estate is for serious investors, Dad lectured at Christmas. At least get a proper job with your brother, Mom suggested every Sunday dinner. None of them had bothered to ask what my little tech startup actually did, or notice that my tiny office was larger than their entire corporate headquarters. Miss Chen, my assistant appeared again. Your brother is now demanding a meeting with Nova's board of directors. He's quite insistent about discussing the building's ownership. Schedule it for next week, I replied, watching James storm around his office. But first, let's give them something else to think about. I pressed a button, activating the new digital displays in the lobby. Suddenly, every screen showed Nova Enterprises' portfolio, including real-time updates of our latest acquisitions. Chin Global's executives froze as they passed through security, staring at the billions in assets controlled by the mysterious Catherine Chin. My phone buzzed. Dad, Catherine, do you know anything about this Nova situation? James is quite concerned. Mom, darling, if you need help understanding corporate matters, your brother would be happy to explain. I was composing my response when Michael interrupted. Miss Chin, your family's company just tried to access Nova's ownership records. Should I let them find anything? Not yet, I smiled, watching James squint at the building's documentation. Let them figure it out gradually. After all, they always said I needed to learn patience in business. The security feed showed my brother making yet another frustrated call to his legal team. Soon he'd discover that every attempt to challenge Nova's ownership would lead back to the sister he'd underestimated for so long. The day of the meeting arrived. I watched from my private elevator as my family entered the lobby of their corporate headquarters, my building, all dressed for what they thought would be a confrontation with Nova's mysterious CEO. Miss Chin, Michael appeared with the morning briefing. Your brother has brought the entire Chin Global board. They've prepared quite a presentation about their rightful claim to the building's top floors. I smiled, adjusting my designer suit. How many of our buildings are they currently leasing? 6 major properties, plus their overseas offices in our Singapore and London towers. Though they haven't realized those are Nova properties yet either. My phone buzzed with family messages. James, meeting with this Novaho today. Time to show them what real business looks like. Mom, James will sort out this ownership confusion. Catherine, you should come watch. Might learn something about corporate negotiations. Dad, no one takes property from Chin Global. This Nova person clearly doesn't know who they're dealing with. I checked the security feed showing my brother's office. He was rehearsing his speech, surrounded by charts showing Chin Global's impressive market position. None of them showed Nova Enterprises' true holdings, or that their successful family business was essentially operating at my pleasure. Michael, I called, activate the new building systems. Suddenly, every screen in the building displayed Nova's logo. The smart glass windows shifted, revealing my company's branding subtly etched into the architecture. Even the elevator buttons now glowed with my corporate colors. My phone lit up again. James, what's happening? The whole building just changed. Dad, legal team says Nova owns the entire block. How is this possible? Mom, Catherine dear, where are you? You're missing James's big moment. If they only knew, I murmured, watching them gather in the main conference room. My brother had chosen the 40th floor for this showdown, not realizing the entire building was wired with my latest smart technology. Miss Chin, Michael appeared, they're ready for you. Though your brother is still demanding to speak with Mr. Chin from Nova. Of course he is, I smiled. Time to show them what my little internet company really does. I stepped into my private elevator, watching the numbers climb. Through the smart glass, I could see my family's increasingly agitated faces as Nova's true scope was revealed floor by floor on every screen they passed. The doors opened directly into the conference room. James was mid-sentence, probably explaining how Chin Global deserved more space in their building. Sorry I'm late, I said quietly. The room fell silent. My brother's presentation clicker slipped from his fingers. Catherine, my father stood slowly. What are you doing here? We're waiting for Nova's CEO. You're looking at her. I took my place at the head of the table, activating the room's hidden displays. Every wall suddenly showed Nova's complete portfolio, hundreds of properties across the globe, all controlled by the daughter they dismissed. This is impossible, James whispered. You run a tech startup. I run the largest smart property investment firm in the world, I corrected him. Those tiny offices you mocked? They're actually entire floors of buildings I own. That internet thing Mom worried about? It's revolutionized commercial real estate globally. The screens showed live feeds from Nova properties worldwide, including every building Chin Global had ever leased. But your failed ventures. My mother stammered. Were carefully planned acquisitions, I finished. While you were bragging about James's corner office, I was buying the building. When Dad lectured me about real business, I was closing deals on properties he couldn't afford to rent. Michael appeared with more documents. Miss Chin, the Dubai Tower transaction is complete. Would you like to add it to the family portfolio display? Family portfolio? My father's face paled. Oh yes, I smiled, pulling up the maps. Every office Chin Global has ever occupied? They're all Nova properties. Those expansion plans you were so excited about. You'd have been asking your little sister's permission to rent more of her space. James stared at his presentation notes. All his grand plans for growing in his building suddenly looking rather small. About those plans, I continued, bringing up Chin Global's lease agreements. I've reviewed your proposal for additional floors. Though given your previous comments about my business acumen, I have some concerns about tenant suitability. My mother reached for her phone, probably to post another comment about her children's different levels of success. Catherine, I don't understand. Let me clarify. I pressed another button. The room's windows turned transparent, revealing my company's name emblazoned across the surrounding buildings. Everything you see, every office tower in this district, they're all mine. That proper corporate job you wanted me to take? I own the companies you wanted me to work for. The screens showed more properties. The Singapore tower where Chin Global had just opened their Asian headquarters, the London office they were so proud of, the Dubai space they'd been negotiating for. Your international expansion? I gestured to the displays. You've been dealing with Nova subsidiaries the entire time. Those impressive lease agreements James negotiated? He was actually getting standard rates from his sister's company. James slumped in his chair, his earlier confidence evaporating. All this time, every office was owned by your unsuccessful sister, yes. I pulled up their lease renewal documents. Now about your expansion plans. The board of Nova Enterprises, that's me, has some concerns about your long-term viability as tenants. Concerns? My father's business mask cracked slightly. We're Chin Global. We're renting space from Catherine Chen's Nova Enterprises, I finished. And given your documented history of underestimating capable businesswomen, we'll need to review your corporate culture before approving any expansion. My phone buzzed, a year-old message from James appearing on the screen. Sis, saw your new office. Cute startup. Let me know when you want to learn about real estate from the pros. I typed back, thanks for the offer. But I think I understand real estate quite well. By the way, your rent's due next week. Do try to be on time. I hate having to evict family. The room was silent except for the soft hum of my technology running through the walls I owned.